Hello everybody, this is Eddie and welcome to part 3 of the my Blender tutorial series for complete beginners. And I think that I might stop naming them, even though this is only the third one. I'm going to stop naming them numbers because, this is going to kind of be a mini-series on that flash drive project I was talking about before. And basically, like I just said, we're going to be modeling a flash drive. So this is where we left off before. I had just showed you the two modifiers, the mirror and the subsurf. One thing I forgot to mention, and it's not that important, but if you go into object mode and then press Z to go into wireframe mode, you can see through the object again, and as you can see, it's very complex. Now, if you go into edit mode, you can see there's not that many vertices, but in object mode, all these lines are showing up, and these are all the lines of the subdivision surface modifier, kind of the pseudo vertices that the modifier is adding. And if you click this optimal display option, it then puts those back to just the actual vertices, and it makes it a lot more easier to work with, but that's not really that important. Okay, so I'm going to delete this cube, and I'm going to press Shift S and do cursor to center. Alrighty, so if you're just opening up Blender for the first time, you're going to have a cube in there. Just press X and delete it, and then put your cursor in the middle, and we're going to get started. So we're going to press Shift A and add a cube to begin with. So I guess actually you could keep that default cube. And the first thing we're going to do when we're going to model this, which means we're just making the shape of this flash drive, first thing we're going to do is we're just going to try to get kind of make this box the same dimensions as the flash drive. So it's going to need to be shorter and skinnier, and I did that by scaling along the Z-axis, which is by pressing S and then Z. Actually, sorry, hold on, let me delete this and pull up a new cube. When you scale things, you generally want it to be in edit mode due to the fact that when you do it in object mode, it's changing the scale of your object. So that is to say, if you scale things in object mode to half the original size, the scale of that object is at half its original size, but if you do it in edit mode, then that object is actually at its full size, but it's half as small. So it's kind of a, in my opinion, it's a small detail. I've run into few problems with it, but not too many. But some people get very, very upset about it, so it is something to get in the habit of. So going into edit mode now we're going to scale. It's going to do the same thing, or it's going to have the same result for all purposes. And I'm going to get lined up here. I got a little confused. I'm going to go view and then front. And now I was being at it from a strange angle. Alright. I'm going to press S and Y to scale it along the Y-axis. I'm going to press S and X to scale along the X-axis. X-axis, that is so hard to say. And then press S and Z to scale along the Z-axis. I'm going to press Tab to go into object mode, just take a look at it. And I think that's pretty good. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up that mirror modifier. So I'm going to press A, W, subdivide. Alright, and the reason why we do that before the mirror modifier is because we need to get this middle, we need to get it so that when we delete the vertices on this one side up here, paint select these and delete them, there's still enough vertices to create this half a box. If we didn't have it, then all we would have is these faces, these four faces right here, and we wouldn't have the half a box. We'd just have one side of the box. So now I'm going to go into object mode and do add modifier mirror, and I'm going to enable that clipping so that we can't pull these middle vertices apart. And I'm going to leave it like that. Actually, I won't enable that. Maybe I'll do that later. Okay. So I had a flash drive with me a little earlier, and I don't know where it went, so I can't use that as a reference, but I know pretty much what I want to do. The first thing I want to do is select these front vertices here. If you need some help figuring out which are those, you go to View, Front. Okay, now it's those visible faces. I'm going to select those vertices. I'm going to press R and X to rotate this around the X. And as you can see, when you rotate these around the X, you kind of shrink them up and down. Meaning, if you go view right, it's not as tall up at the very tip as it was before. So I'm going to press S and Z to scale it until it is straight. If I don't like what I just did, I can press Control Z and undo it, or if I don't like what I'm doing and I haven't pressed left click to select it, I can just press right click. Okay, so mine is angled and at the very front of it, and that's why I did that. The next, I'm going to just map out what I'm doing, because I want to keep this short. So I'm going to press Control R. I'm going to add a loop there. I'm going to press Control R. Oh, I haven't explained this yet. Control R is the loop cut or add loop tool, which brings up this pink line. And basically, if you put your mouse on an edge, it'll add a loop in the middle perpendicular to that edge. So I'm going to left click there, and then it brings up it adds some vertices and it selects them, and then you can slide them where you want it. So if I want to loop really up close or a loop farther back, I can do that, or I can just keep it right in the middle. And that's nice for adding vertices and without adding too much. I'm going to go on up there. Now what we did is we basically just subdivided the thing, so I could have done that all in one step by selecting everything and pressing W and subdividing. And I'm actually going to keep that because I want to do that. And I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to go to smooth. I'm going to do that a couple times. Now, I wanted to smooth it, but that's not exactly how I wanted it to look. So, because it's like a little weird around here, I'm going to add a subdivision surface modifier. And that's how I wanted it. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to bump the view. I'm going to keep it at 1 actually. And I'm going to press these triangle vertices to snap it here. As you can see, that copies the subdivision surface modifier to both sides. Or rather, I guess when you do that, it enables the mirror modifier on both sides, is what I was trying to say. Didn't say it correctly though. Okay. So, the last thing we're going to do in this tutorial, I think, is the basics of the shape of this thing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these vertices here. I'm going to press S and Y. That scales them along the Y axis. So if I drag the mouse in towards the cursor, you're going to see they get flatter. And if I pull it out, they get more wavy, and their differences along the Y axis are kind of are intensified, I guess you could say. But you could also control this with the number buttons. So you could press 1 to keep it the same, which is like 1 is 100%. Or you can press 5 to do it times 5, or you can press 0.5 to do it half as much, but I'm going to press 0 to bring it down to absolutely nothing, and that fixed that problem with the little dent that it had right there. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is add one more loop right here, right along the bottom. Whoops, wrong spot. Press Control Z. I'm going to add it right along the bottom, and I'm going to select this whole area, and this is going to be the area where the USB jack or port or whatever you call it is. I'm going to press E to extrude. I'm going to grab it along the Y and just pull it back, and then I'm going to press S, Y, 0, exactly like we did before. Make them all flat. They're not going to actually be flat because the subdivision surface modifier gets in the way. Now, if you notice, this looks strange. And that's because you have a lot of vertices over here around the rim, and you have a lot of vertices back here, but there's no vertices in the middle. It's kind of like really stretched, and that's a result mostly of the subdivision surface modifier. That modifier tends to cause some problems, but it's still helpful. So I can press Control R to add. I should view it from over here. Sorry, the mirror modifier. It only shows the pink line with Control R, that loop cut or loop add or whatever you want to call it, edge loop thing there, and It only shows it on the side, the actual side, not the mirrored side. But anyways, then if I use the scroll wheel, I can get more loops and add in more loops of vertices. So I'm gonna add 2. And then I think I'm gonna that didn't really help, did it? Well, I'm gonna add one more right up here, up on the front, and this time I'm gonna drag it up here so it's close to the edge, and then I'm gonna scale it down so that it kind of creates. Well, actually, one thing I can do is I can just shift and right click all these bottom ones and make sure we don't get any ones we didn't want to get. And I'm gonna grab that along the Z and just shape it like that, just grabbing these vertices in groups and stuff until I get that nice rectangular depth there. And the last thing, quickly, this is going over, trying to fit this all into one YouTube video. If you have the paint select up and you want to deselect something, you middle mouse, you paint over it with middle mouse. Well, anyway, so I'm gonna oops, I got some extra ones down here. A little buggy, sometimes it selects ones you don't want them to select. I'm going to press E, and I'm going to grab it along the Z. Now, oops, looks like I accidentally grabbed this guy. Or, looks like I accidentally extruded this or something. It's an extra vertice, that's okay. Press X and delete with vertices. Now if I go into object mode, I can see right here that I have the basic shape of the flash drive. This is going to be the part where I slide it. You know, like you push, there's going to be a little knob here and you push it with your thumb, and then out comes the USB port, and it goes back in over here. And so I'm going to save it, file save. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press T to bring up this left panel. I'm going to right click on the object and press smooth to smooth it out. And maybe I'll put it up to 2 in the subdivision surface modifier. So this is going to be the basic body of the flash drive as it's going to look in the final version. But obviously there's going to be colors, there's going to be some more things modeled onto it, which is going to be the next tutorial, which is about modeling the details and basically just finishing this up as far as the basic shape of it goes. And so thank you for watching. Look at my other videos, look at the previous videos, stay tuned for the videos coming up, and I will see you in the next part of the flash drive tutorial.